Genesis chapter 11. This is So some of this took place a little bit in the middle of chapter 10, but this is a separate story from the Noah lineage, even though it does have the same people in it, because those are the only people on Earth. Here we go. The whole Earth had the same exact language and vocabulary. As people migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let us make oven-fired bricks." They used brick for stone and asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let us make a name for ourselves, otherwise we will be scattered throughout the earth." Then the Lord came down to look over the city and the tower that the humans were building. The Lord said, "If they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down there and confuse their language so that they will not understand one another's speech." So from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore, it is called Babylon. For there, the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. So people are getting a little too pompous, a little too full of themselves, and they started to build themselves a monument, the Tower of Babylon. And God said, we're not having that. And then he made them all speak different languages, so they all got real confused, and then they just left. And that's why we say babbling when someone's saying something that doesn't make sense. It's because of this. All right. From Shem to Abram. These are the family records of Shem. One sec. Okay. Shem lived 100 years and fathered Arpachshad 2 years after the flood. After he fathered Arpachshad, Shem lived 500 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Arpachshad lived 35 years and fathered Shelah. After he fathered Shelah, Arpachshad lived 403 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and fathered Eber. After he fathered Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and fathered Peleg. After he fathered Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and fathered Reu. After he fathered Reu, Peleg lived 209 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Reu lived 32 years and fathered Serug. After he fathered Serug, Reu lived 270 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and fathered Nahor. After he fathered Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years and fathered Terah. After he fathered Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Alright, so Abram is our next major player in the Bible, so it's just saying where he came from. He came from Noah. Duh. That is how I got there, though. These are the family records of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot. So Lot is Abram's nephew. Yeah. Haran died in his native land in Ur of the Chaldeans during his father Terah's lifetime. Abram and Nahor took wives. Abram's wife was named Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was unable to conceive. She did not have a child. I could draw out all these timelines. I'm going to draw out Abram and Sarai. Oh my goodness. Because they're our major players going forward. Abram. Sarai. I hope you enjoy my art, as always. Beautiful. Okay, where was I? Okay. Not getting enough oxygen. Alright. Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they set out together from Ur to the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. Who's honking? I don't know. The call of Abram. The Lord said to Abram, "Go out from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone that treats you with contempt, and all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So this is God saying, Abram, you're a special boy. You're going to be the next Noah. You're going to be the pre-Moses. You're going to be the next Adam. You're going to be the pre-Jesus. You are our current major player. That's Abram. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Yes.
I know you're midstream, but your neighbor's outside.
What does he need?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be back, friends. Probably not. Fun times with the Bible stream. My neighbor needed to know if my Fios was working. And I don't know if we even have Fios. Turns out we don't. We have Spectrum. Wow, now you're up to date. All right. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abraham passed through the land to the site of Shechem, at the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country east of Bethel and pitched his tent. With Bethel on the west and Ai to the east, he built an altar to the Lord there, and he called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram journeyed by stages to the Negev. So Abram, his wife, his nephew, their whole clan, everything they own, they're moving out. They're going to go do what God wants. God's like, "Hey, this land, by the way, this is going to be your descendants." And he's like, "Aight." And then he kept going. Abram in Egypt, there was a famine in the land. So Abram went down to Egypt to stay there for a while, because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife,' and they will kill me, but let you live. Please, say that you're my sister. So it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh, so the woman was taken to Pharaoh's household. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. So Abram's like, "Oh, Sarah, I love you so much. You're so gorgeous of a wife that as soon as this guy sees you, he's gonna kill me because he wants you for himself. So you need to be my sister right now." Wink, wink. And the Pharaoh's like, "Ooh, look at this guy. I mean, what woman? She's not married. She's only his sister. I'm gonna take her and give her brother some stuff." So Abram got some stuff, but now, oh no, Pharaoh has Sarai. What's gonna happen? But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues because of Abram's wife Sarai. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister? So I have took her for my wife. Now here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him, and they sent him away with his wife and all he had. So Abram lied, which is a sin. So again, you're able to sin, even if God has you doing your will. It's not the right thing to do, but God's still going to love you after, and he still gained from it because he's still generally trying to do the right thing. He made a mistake. God forgave him, and God helps him continue his progress. Abram and Lot separate. Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he, his wife, and all he had, with Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver and gold. He went by stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built the altar. And Abram called on the name of the Lord there. Now Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land was unable to support them as long as they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they could not stay together, and there was quarreling between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between you and me, or between your herdsmen and my herdsmen, since we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Lot looked out and saw the entire plain of the Jordan as far as Zoar, as well watered everywhere like the Lord's garden, and the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the entire plain of the Jordan for himself. Then Lot journeyed eastward and separated from each other. Abraham lived in the land of Canaan, but Lot lived in the cities on the plain and set up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, sinning immensely against the Lord. So, what do we have here? Lot, Abram's nephew, and Abram, they had some quarrelings. They had so many people. It was like two separate cities moving together. And Abram's like, this is dumb. We're family. We shouldn't fight. Pick where you want to go. I'll go the other way. Lot goes east. Abram goes west. Lot goes to Sodom with a very bad influence, but really good land. That's where we are now. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, "Look from the place where you are. Look north, south, east, and west. For I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk around the land, through its length and width, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and went to live near the oaks of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. I spilled water myself. Alright. Abram rescues Lot. In those days, King Amraphel of Shinar, King Arioch of Elasar, King Sherdorlaomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goyim waged war against King Bera of Sodom, King Brisha of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Admah, King Shemeber of Zeboim, as well as the king of Bela, that is Zor. Wow. All these came as allies to the Siddim Valley, that is the Dead Sea. They were subject to Shedorlaomer for 12 years. But in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year Shedorlaomer and the kings who were with him came and defeated the Rephaim, and Ashtaroth, Karnaim, the Zuzim, and Ham, the Emim, and Shavik, Kiriathaim, and the Horites, and the mountain of Seir as far as El Paran by the wilderness. Then they came back to invade En-Mishpat, that is Kadesh, and they defeated the whole territory of the Amalekites as well as the Amorites who lived in Hazan Tamar. There's a war going on. There you go. That's your summary. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zor, went out and lined up for battle in the Sidon Valley against King Chedorlaomer of Elam, King Tidal of Goyim, King Amraphel of Shinar, and King Arioch of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Now the Sidon Valley contained many asphalt pits, and as the king of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them. But the rest fled to the mountains. The 4 kings took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food and went on. They also took Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, for he was living in Sodom, and they went on. So, there was a war. Sodom lost. Lot got taken away. One of the survivors came and told Abram the Hebrew, who lived near the oaks belonging to the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol and the brother of Aner, and they were bound by a treaty with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken prisoner, he assembled his 318 trained men, born in his household, and they went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants deployed against them by night, defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah to the north of Damascus. He brought back all the goods, and also his relative Lot and his goods, as well as the women and the other people. There was a war. Sodom lost. Lot got kidnapped as a result. Abraham took his pretty small army. I don't know if it was small comparatively, but 318 men's not a lot. And he pushed them all the way back. Got all their stuff. Got some women. Got some nephew. And they're done. Boom. Melchizedek's blessing. After Abram returned from defeating Chedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Shaveh Valley, that is the King's Valley. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest to the God Most High. He blessed him and said, Abram is blessed by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you. So these several kings lost this war, and this one guy won this war. So of course the kings were like, wow, thank you so much. You beat these guys that we didn't like, and what can we do for you? We're going to bless you. God Most High, your God, he's real bomb. He's probably the best ever. And then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. He gave the priest what's effectively a tithe, but not to God, to him, just as a peace offering. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, it'll be Abraham later. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people, but take the possessions for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to the Lord God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or sandal strap or anything that belongs to you. So you can never say, I made Abram rich. I will take nothing except what the servants have eaten. But as for the share of the men who came with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, they can take their share. So he's like, hey, I want to make you rich. You help me out. And then he's like, only God's going to make me rich because I'm a good boy. That's it. Genesis 15. The Abrahamic Covenant. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. But Abram said, Lord God, what can you give me, since I am childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? Abram continued, look, you have given me no offspring, so a slave born in my house will be my heir. Now the word of the Lord came to him, this one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look at the sky and count the stars, if you are able to count them. Then he said to him, your offspring will be that numerous. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, Lord God, how can I know that I'll possess it? he said to him, "Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon." So he brought all these to him, cut them in half, and laid the pieces opposite of each other. But he did not cut the birds in half. Birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away, and the sun was setting. A deep sleep came over Abram. And suddenly great terror and darkness descended on him. And then the Lord said to Abram, "Know this for certain, your offspring will be resident aliens for 400 years in a land that does not belong to them, and they will be enslaved and oppressed. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterward they will go out with many possessions, but you will go to your fathers in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and it was dark, a smoking firepot and flaming torch appeared and passed between the divided animals. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I give this land to your offspring, from the brook of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River, the land of the Canaanites, the Kenizzites, the Cadmonites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, Rephaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites. So let's summarize this. This was a lot happened in this chapter. So God's like, hey dude, I'm gonna give you everything because you're the bomb diggity. And Abram's like, but you said I'm gonna have lots of kids, and I don't have a kid, so I'm just gonna have a slave kid, and I'm just make him my heir. And then God's like, dude, you're gonna have a kid. You're gonna have a kid. I promise you. Look at the sky, see those stars. That's how many kids you're gonna have. You're gonna have a ton of kids. And he's like, dude, how do I know? And he's like, you know what? Give me a real big offering. So he went out, got this real big offering, and he fell asleep, had some nightmares, woke up, and God's like, hey, you're my boy. That's it. That's as good of a summary as you're gonna get right now. Alright. My throat's very dry. I've been going at this for almost 2 hours now. I'll be right back. I need more water. Goodness gracious, I tried to drink what was left of my water and I swallowed it wrong. Bear with me. Here we go. Alright. I'm back. Chapter 16. Hagar and Ishmael. Abram's wife, Sarai, had not borne any children for him, but she owned an Egyptian slave named Hagar. Sarai said to Abram, since the Lord has prevented me from bearing children, go to my slave. Perhaps through her I can build a family. And Abram agreed to what Sarai said. Excuse me. So this is like what I talked about with Adam and Eve and the first part of Genesis. Abram was just told not to have a kid with a servant, and that will not be his heir. Sarai said, hey, have a kid with my slave. And then Abram said, you know what? I know it's not the right thing to do, but I can fix it later. He knew it was wrong and he did it anyways. So Abram's wife Sarai took Hagar, her Egyptian slave, and gave her to her husband Abram as a wife for him. This happened after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan 10 years. He slept with Hagar and she became pregnant. When she saw she was pregnant, her mistress became contemptible to her. Then Sarai said to Abram, you are responsible for my suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and when she saw she was pregnant, I became contemptible to her. May the Lord judge between me and you. Sarai told him, have a kid with her. He did it. Now she's upset. Abram replied to Sarai, here, your slave's in your hands. Do whatever you want with her. Then Sarai mistreated her so much that she ran away from her. So she's like, I can't believe you did this with my husband. You're the worst slave ever. Boom, boom, pow. And then she ran away because she was being mistreated. She didn't like that. And Sarai was being real mean because she was real jealous. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring, and in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. He said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? She replied, I'm running away from my mistress Sarai. The angel of the Lord said to her, go back to your mistress and submit to her authority. The angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your offspring, and they will be too many to count. The angel of the Lord said to her, you have conceived and will have a son. You will name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your cry of affliction. This man will be like a wild donkey. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. He will settle near all his relatives. So, Abram had another lady, a slave lady, another lady named Hagar, and they had a kid. Well, they're gonna have a kid named, what was it that I just read? Ishmael. And no one's gonna like Ishmael. I'm gonna make him sad. Sad Ishmael. Here is our current Abrahamic tree. Beautiful stuff. So, she named the Lord who spoke to her, you are Elroy. What does this say? Elroy means God sees me. You are Elroy, for she said, in this place have I actually seen the one who sees me. That is why the wall is called Beer-Lally-Roy. What is that? A well, not wall. Which means well of the living one who sees me. It is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave birth to Abram's son, and Abram named his son, who Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to him. Covenant circumcision. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him, saying, I am God Almighty. Live in my presence and be blameless. I will set up my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell face down, and God spoke with him. As for me, here is my covenant with you. You will become the father of many nations, and your name will no longer be Abram. Your name will be Abraham. For I will make you the father of many nations. What does this say? Abram means the father is exalted. Abraham means father of a multitude. Ooh. I will make you extremely fruitful, and will make nations and kings come from you. I will confirm my covenant that was between me and you and your future offspring throughout their generations. It is a permanent covenant to be your God and the God of your offspring after you. And to you and your future offspring I will give the land where you are residing, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. God also said to Abraham, as for you and your offspring after you throughout their generations are to keep my covenant. This is my covenant between me and you and your offspring after you, which you are to keep. Every one of your males must be circumcised. Okay, so remember, covenant is a holy promise. God's saying, hey, you 90-year-old man, I promise you're still going to get a kid with your wife. Your name is now Abraham because of how many kids you're going to have, but you got to circumcise him. That's the one stipulation. You must circumcise the flesh of your foreskin to serve as a sign of the covenant between me and you. Throughout your generations, every male among you is to be circumcised at 8 days old. Every male born in your household or purchased from any foreigner and not your offspring. So that means so even slaves also had to have this happen. Whether born in your household or purchased, he must be circumcised. My covenant will be marked in your flesh as a permanent covenant. If any male is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that man will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. So you might say, why is it on the 8th day? Is it just because it's after the 7th day? Is there any significance to this? And there is some significance, I found out. Around the 8th day of life is when your blood is like capable of clotting. So it's very dangerous to circumcise before. This is something that probably wasn't known or understood at this time, but it was. And that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty good support for the Bible being truth. I mean, they didn't do scientific studies back then, you know? It's just what was done because that's what they were told. God said to Abraham, as for your wife Sarai, do not call her Sarai, for Sarah will be her name. I will bless her indeed. I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she'll produce nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. What does Sarah mean? It means princess. Abraham fell face down. Then he laughed and said to himself, can a child be born to a 100-year-old man? Can Sarah, a 90-year-old woman, give birth? So Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael were acceptable to you. So he knows that Ishmael was born against the rules. And he doesn't believe God in what he's telling him. But God said, no, your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will name him Isaac. I will confirm my covenant with him as a permanent covenant for his future offspring. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will certainly bless him. I will make him fruitful and will multiply him greatly. He will father 12 tribal leaders, and I'll make him into a great nation. But I will confirm my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. When he finished talking with him, God withdrew from Abraham. So Abraham, he's our star boy. And him and Sarah are going to have another eye boy. It's going to be Isaac. Because he's like the star player, though he's going to get a smiley face. Wow. Look at... Really? I'm basically Picasso. Alright. So God said, you're going to have Isaac in a year. So Abraham took his son Ishmael and was born his household, or purchased every male among the members of Abraham's household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin on that very day, just as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised. On that same day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his household, whether born in his household or purchased from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. So immediately he goes to work. He says, hey, we're going to get some knives and get some sharp rocks. We're going to get this done. And he did it. He did God's will immediately. Which is very different than when he conceived Ishmael, which is disobeying God's word almost immediately. Abraham's 3 visitors. My goodness. The Lord appeared to Abraham at the oaks of Mamre, while he was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day. He looked up, and he saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw him, he ran from the entrance of the tent to meet them, bowed to the ground, and said, my Lord, if I have found favor with you, please do not go on past your servant. Let a little water be brought, that you may wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. I will bring a bit of bread, so that you may strengthen yourselves. This is why you have passed your servant's way. Later you can continue on. Yes, they replied, do as you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent and said to Sarah, quick, need 3 measures of fine flour and make bread. Abraham ran to the herd and got tender choice calf. He gave it to a young man who hurried to prepare it. And Abraham took curds and milk, as well as the calf he had prepared, and set them before the men. He served them as they ate under the tree. Sarah laughs. Where is your wife Sarah? They asked him. There in the tent, he answered. The Lord said, I will certainly come back to you in about a year's time, and your wife Sarah will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old and getting on in years. Sarah had passed the age of childbearing, so she laughed to herself. After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I have delight? But the Lord asked Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, can I really have a baby when I'm old? Is anything impossible for the Lord? At the appointed time I'll come back to you, and in about a year she will have a son. Sarah denied it. I did not laugh, she said, because she was afraid. But he replied, no, you did laugh. So these 3 guys came over. It's, again, the Bible's one continuous story with many parallels. These 3 kings are very similar to the wise men that came for Jesus. And both of them came because a baby was going to come. And that's what happened. Abraham's plea for Sodom. The men got up from there and looked out over Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them to see them off. Then the Lord said, should I hide what I am about to do from Abraham? Abraham is to become a great and powerful nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will command his children and his house after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. This is how the Lord will fulfill to Abraham what he promised him. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is immense, and their sin is extremely serious. I will go down to see if what they have done justifies the cry that has come up to me. If not, I will find out. So he's saying, Sodom and Gomorrah, they suck. Their people are the worst. I'm going to destroy it. Just like the flood, except less, you know? The men turned from there and went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Abraham stepped forward and said, will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you sweep it away instead of sparing the place for the sake of 50 righteous people who are in it? You could not possibly do such a thing, to kill righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. You could not possibly do that. Won't the judge of the whole earth do what is just? The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham answered, since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, even though I am dust and ashes, suppose the 50 righteous lack 5. Will you destroy the whole city for a lack of 5? He replied, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Then he spoke again, suppose 40 are found there. He answered, I will not do it on account of 40. Then he said, let my Lord not be angry, and I will speak further. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Then he said, since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, suppose 20 are found there. He replied, I will not destroy it on an account of 20. Then he said, let my Lord not be angry, and I'll speak one more time. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, I will not destroy it on an account of 10. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he departed, and Abraham returned to his place. So, God's going like, oh, Sodom, Gomorrah, those places, terrible. I'm going to destroy it. Abraham said, ooh, I don't like that. I have some good relationships with Sodom. But what if there's some good people there? You didn't kill Adam because he was righteous. So what if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Are you going to kill the city along with the people? And God's like, no, I won't kill there's 50 people. And goes talking about 45. Okay, no, I won't kill there's 45. All right, what about 40? Okay, I won't kill there's 40. What about 30? What about 20? What about 10? Finally, he stops at 10. And God says, okay, if there are 10 righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah, I will not destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But he continues onward. So what does that say about those places? They were pretty corrupt. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. The 2 angels entered Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in Sodom's gateway. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them. He bowed with his face to the ground and said, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house, wash your feet and spend the night. Then you can get up early and go on your way. No, they said, we would rather spend the night in the square. But he urged them so strongly that they followed him and went into his house. He prepared a feast and baked unleavened bread for them, and they ate. Before they went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, the whole population surrounded the house. They called out to Lot and said, where are those men who came with you tonight? Send them out so we can have sex with them. Lot went out to them at the entrance and shut the door behind him. He said, do not do this evil, my brothers. Look, I've got 2 daughters who haven't been intimate with a man. I'll bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. However, don't do anything to these men, because they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of the way, they said, adding, this one came here as an alien, but he's acting like a judge. Now we'll do more harm to you than to them. But they put pressure on Lot and came up to break down the door, but the angels reached out and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blindness, so they were unable to find the entrance. Then the angel said to Lot, do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons and daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of this place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people is so great before the Lord, that the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So Lot earlier, when he went to Sodom, it said that Sodom was filled with bad people, but it didn't say how terrible they were. So Lot's here at the entrance of the city gate. He finds these 3 angels coming through, these 3 wise men, these 3 kings, holy humans. Probably not even humans. And he said, hey, please stay with me. I know how powerful you are, I know how holy you are. Please stay with me. Let me welcome you. He lets them in, treats them great. Sodom sees these guys. The whole city of Sodom comes and says, hey, these men, let them out here. We're going to rape them. And Lot, knowing how important these people were, he offered his own daughters before them. He said, I have virgin daughters. You can have them before you can have these men. And they said, no, we are going to rape them. So they tried to break into his house, and then the angels made them blind so that they couldn't find the door to break into. And then they said, okay, Lot, get everyone you care about and leave. we are going to destroy it. Which means that Sodom and Gomorrah, they had less than 10 righteous people, and Lot, Abraham's nephew, and his family were within those 10. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law. Oh, wait, one more thing. This is important. So Lot didn't go there alone. Remember, he had a whole clan. So that means that the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was strong enough to corrupt almost his entire clan. That's pretty significant. Alright, so Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who are going to marry his daughters. Get up, he said, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. So even his daughters' husbands wouldn't, they were part of the corrupt. They didn't believe him. At daybreak, the angels urged Lot on, get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city. But he hesitated. Because of the Lord's compassion for him, the man grabbed his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters. They brought him out and left him outside the city. So they didn't want to leave, but God loved him. He knew that they had good hearts. So these 3 angels, they took Lot, his wife, his daughters, pulled him out. As soon as the angels got them outside, one of them said, run for your lives and do not look back, and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But Lot said to them, no, my lords, please, your servant has indeed found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life, but I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, this town is close enough for me to flee to. It is a small place, please let me run to it. It's only a small place, isn't it, so that I can survive. And he said to them, all right, I'll grant your request about this matter too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up, run to it, for I cannot do anything until you get there. Therefore, the name of the city is Zoar. So Lot is commanded to go to the mountains. He says, mountains are scary, they're spoopy, and they're difficult. Can I go to the city, please? It's a small city, can't be that bad. They said, yeah, go. Don't look back. The angel said, do not look back. All right, verse 23. The sun had risen over the land when Lot reached Zoar. Then out of the sky the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah, burning sulfur from the Lord. He demolished these cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. She did what she was supposed to not do. The angel said, don't look back, and she looked back. Early in the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain, and he saw that smoke was going up from the land like the smoke of a furnace. So it was, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the middle of the upheaval when he demolished the cities where Lot had lived. The origin of Moab and Ammon. Lot departed from Zoar and lived in the mountains along with his 2 daughters because he was afraid to live in Zoar. So he ended up going where he was supposed to go anyways. Instead, he and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Then the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old and there is no man in the land to sleep with us, as in the custom of the land. Come, let's get our father to drink wine so we can sleep with him and preserve our father's line. So they got their father to drink wine that night, and the firstborn came and slept with their father. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. This is pretty terrible. His daughters didn't want Lot's line to stop existing, so they got him drunk and had sex with him in his sleep. The next day... Hold on. Yeah, alright, so the firstborn did it that night. The next day, the firstborn said to the younger, look, I slept with my father last night. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight so you can go sleep with him, and we can preserve our father's line. That night, they again got their father to drink wine, and the younger went and slept with him. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ammi, means son of my people. He is the father of the Ammonites today. So from Abraham's nephew, we have the Moabites and the Ammonites from his daughters and him. Sarah rescued from Abimelech. From there, Abraham traveled to the region of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur, while he was staying in Gerar. Abraham said about his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar had Sarah brought to him. So he did the same thing they did before. He said, "Oh, can't say she's my wife. That'll be bad for me. But if she's my sister, I'll be safe." But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, for she is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not approached her, so he said, "Lord, would you destroy a nation even though it is innocent? Didn't he himself say to me, 'She is my sister,' and she herself said, 'He is my brother'? I did this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you did this with a clear conscience. I have also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I have not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who are yours." Early in the morning, Abimelech got up, called his servants together, and personally told them all these things, and the men were terrified. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said to him, "What have you done to us? How did I sin against you that you have brought such enormous guilt on me and my kingdom? You have done these things that should never be done." Abimelech also asked Abraham, "What made you do this?" Abraham replied, "I thought there is absolutely no fear of God in this place. They will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is really my sister, the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. So when God had me wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'Show your loyalty to me wherever we go, and say about me, he is my brother.'" Then Abimelech took flocks and herds and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and returned his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, "Look, my land is before you. Settle wherever you want." And he said to Sarah, "Look, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is a verification of your honor. To all who are with you, you are fully vindicated." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so they could bear children. For the Lord had completely closed all the wombs in Abimelech's household on account of Sarah, Abraham's wife. This is the same thing that happened before. Abimelech took Abraham's wife as his wife, not knowing it was Abraham's wife. God punished him, this time with infertility. And then he was told, "Hey, that's not your wife." And he's like, "Oh no." So then he returned Sarah to Abraham, and then they got fertility back. That's it. Sort of rehashing the same thing, just happening again.